Today's learning target is I can find unit rates and compare unit rates to solve problems. Today we're going to talk about unit rates. And the best way to explain unit rates is if you buy a six-pack of Coca-Cola and it costs you, let's say, $4 for a six-pack. The unit rate would be how much one can of pop would cost. Even though you bought six of them, how much one would cost. Or let's say you filled up your car and gas and you had 12 gallons of gas that you put in and you drove 300 miles on that 12 gallons. The unit rate would be how many miles your car got for every gallon of gas. Or let's say you bought 2.5 pounds of jelly beans and you paid $16 for them. How much each pound of jelly beans would cost?
Now when we're asked to find the unit rate of a ratio, like we are here, we have 400 miles on 14 gallons of gasoline. Okay, we start by writing that as a ratio. So 400 miles on the top and 14 gallons on the bottom. Now we could have flip-flopped that and put 14 gallons on the top and 400 miles on the bottom. It wouldn't matter, it would still be a ratio. And finding the unit rate means I want to find how many miles I would go on 1 gallon of gas. So I set this up as a ratio, and I'm going to put X miles. And notice I have the same, I have miles on the top of the ratio and gallons on the bottom. And again, I could have flip-flopped that. Gallons could be on the top and miles could be on the bottom. Now remember, when we have equivalent or equal ratios or fractions set up like this, I can take these two numbers and multiply them, and they will equal these two if they are equivalent. Okay, so a good way to show this is you take this times this, and then this times this. So in this case right here, 400 times 1 is going to give me 400, and that's going to equal this right here, 14 times x, which gives me 14x, and now I've set it up as an equation. Now I'm going to divide both sides by 14. Okay, and once I do that, that cancels out. And when I solve that, I get 28.6, and I can't forget my label. That's really important when we do unit rates. So this would be 28.6 miles per gallon. So this is the sign for per, and then you can see I abbreviate gallon, G-A-L. Now I'd want to be careful. Miles, something like this, if you just abbreviate it M, that would be like, people wouldn't know, is it meters, is it miles? So make sure when you abbreviate, if you do abbreviate, it's clear what you're abbreviating.
So this next problem here is asking us to find which has the lower cost per song. It says an online music store sells 15 songs for $12 and another one sells them 10 songs for $9. Which online store has the lowest cost per song? So you can.
Now in order to find which is the better deal, I could find the unit rate for this ratio and the unit rate for this ratio. And if I do that, it will tell me which is a better deal. Now to do that, I set this one up as an equivalent ratio where I want to find out how much one song, I put 1s for the song, just to be sure I lined up the songs at the top of my ratio, and then I put x dollars for how much it would cost then for one song. Now I'll set this up as an equation, so I'm going to take this times this, which gives me 9, and that's going to equal, remember, the 10 times the x, so 10x. Now to get that x by itself, I divide both sides by 10. And when I do that, x equals 90 cents per song. And now I find the unit rate for this one right here. Set it up the same way, so I set it up with a ratio one song equals x dollars. And now I cross multiply, so I'm going to take those and I get 15x is equal to 12. And now I divide both sides by 15 so that I can get x by itself. And when I solve that, x equals 80 cents per song, so I can see this, the 15 songs for $12, is a better buy. And here's my proof.
This problem here says a typical dolphin takes about 34 breaths in 4 hours. How many breaths will a dolphin take in 7 hours?
Now the first thing I do is I write my ratio, so I wrote it here, 34 breaths in 4 hours. Now I want to find out how many breaths a dolphin will take in 7 hours. So what I can do is I can set this up as an equivalent ratio. So to do that, I set up a ratio over here where it's x for breaths, and I want to know how many in 7 hours. Now, just like we did before, we can set up an equation by cross-multiplying. Okay? So 4 times x is going to give me 4x, and that's going to be equal to 7 times 34. And that equals 238. And now I want to get x by itself, so I divide both sides by 4. And when I solve that, I get 59.5, and then don't forget your label, breaths per hour.